What happens when we die? It's one of the oldest questions humanity has ever asked. Across time, civilizations have created stories, religions have offered hope or fear, and science has tried to shut the door on mystery. Some are spiritual, some are scientific, and a few will bend your mind in ways you won't expect. Stick around, because one of the later theories might make you question whether you've already died before, and just didn't realize it. Let's begin with the most commonly accepted theory among scientists, but also the one many people fear the most. It's the idea that after death, there is simply nothing. According to the Nothingness Theory, when your brain stops functioning and your heart stops beating, that's it. There's no soul leaving the body, no white light, no awareness. Death is a full shutdown of consciousness. This view aligns with materialism, the belief that all phenomena, including thoughts and consciousness, are the result of physical processes. So when those processes end, so does you. It's like entering a permanent, dreamless sleep. While it may seem bleak, some people find comfort in this idea, because it means there's no suffering, no fear, just silence and peace. Neuroscientists often cite the brain's dependence on oxygen and neural activity as evidence. But if this theory is true, then why do so many people report vivid near-death experiences? That brings us to a very different idea, one that's been believed for thousands of years in cultures around the world. This is the concept of reincarnation, the belief that after death, your soul or consciousness is reborn into another body. In Hinduism, this cycle is called samsara, and your actions in this life, karma, determine the nature of your next. But it's not just ancient texts that support this idea. There are thousands of documented cases, especially in children, where people recall detailed memories of past lives, including names, events, and places they couldn't have known. Researchers like Dr. Ian Stevenson spent decades studying these cases, many of which remain unexplained. Some suggest that consciousness is not tied to the body, but is more like a signal received by the brain. And when one radio dies, the signal simply finds a new one. If that idea already sounds strange, wait until you hear this one. A growing number of thinkers, especially in the tech world, are entertaining what's known as the simulation reset theory. It starts with the idea that our entire reality might be a simulation, a highly advanced computer program created by a more intelligent civilization. If that's the case, then death might simply be a reset or logout, the end of one simulation session. Think of it like a video game. Your character dies, but the player is still there, watching. What's even more mind-blowing is that some scientists have found mathematical patterns in the universe, including binary code, that resemble the structure of computer systems. Could that be evidence we're in a digital construct? If so, then death isn't an end at all, just a shift in perspective. While simulations are still largely hypothetical, another theory draws on real scientific concepts from quantum mechanics. It's known as the parallel universe theory, and it suggests that when we die in one universe, our consciousness continues in another, perhaps in a reality nearly identical to this one. According to the many worlds interpretation of quantum physics, every possible outcome of every event actually exists in a vast multiverse. That means there are infinite versions of you, and infinite versions of your life. So, in one universe, you might have died in a car crash. In another, you swerved just in time. This theory implies that death is just a branching point, not a true end. It also ties into some accounts of people who say they've died and come back with an overwhelming sense that they weren't supposed to go yet. But for billions of people around the world, the explanation of life after death is less scientific and more moral. According to many religious traditions, particularly Christianity and Islam, death leads to divine judgment. and your actions in life determine what happens next. In this worldview, a heaven and hell aren't metaphors, but actual destinations for the soul. Those who lived righteously are rewarded with eternal peace and joy, while the wicked face punishment or separation from the divine. These ideas are often tied to religious texts like the Bible or the Quran, but interestingly, similar concepts appear in ancient Egyptian, Greek, and even Norse beliefs. While interpretations vary, the core message is consistent. How you live matters, not just now, but forever. Let's step back from doctrine and return to physics. Specifically, the laws of energy. One theory gaining traction among spiritual scientists is the energy transfer theory. It's based on the first law of thermodynamics. Energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transformed. So if human consciousness is a form of energy, it doesn't just vanish when we die. Instead, it changes form, possibly entering a different dimension or state of being. Some believe this explains ghost sightings or sensations of being watched. Others argue that this soul energy joins a larger universal field, still active, still aware in some way. This theory creates a kind of bridge between science and spirituality. Now, imagine dying, but instead of blackness, you enter an endless, vivid dream. One so real, so immersive, that it feels like an entirely new life. This idea is at the core of the dream loop theory, which suggests that the moment of death triggers a flood of DMT, a powerful psychedelic, naturally released by the brain. This chemical might produce a time-dilated experience, meaning what feels like eternity could happen in a few seconds. Some theorists believe that this life flash might be so rich and detailed that it becomes your new reality, looping endlessly, never fading. It's like reliving your favorite memory forever. Or your worst, depending on your mind's final thoughts. Speaking of the mind, another theory proposes that when we die, our individual identity doesn't disappear. It merges. The cosmic consciousness theory argues that our personal consciousness is just a fragment of a much larger universal mind, like a drop of water returning to the ocean. This idea appears in various spiritual traditions, from Buddhist nirvana to the mystical unity described by Sufi poets. It's not about living on as you, but becoming everything. Trees, stars, strangers, space, all connected by the same consciousness. To some, that's ultimate peace. To others, the loss of individuality is unsettling. But it's hard to ignore how often this idea shows up, even among people who've had near-death experiences and describe becoming one with everything. If you've ever had the eerie feeling that a loved one is watching over you, you're not alone. And you're not crazy, according to the ancestor spirit theory. Found in many African, Asian, and indigenous cultures, this belief holds that the dead continue to exist in a spiritual form, guiding and protecting the living. Ancestors are often honored with offerings, rituals, and prayers, not out of fear, but respect. In some cultures, these spirits are consulted before big decisions or major life events. The idea that our connections extend beyond death can be deeply comforting, especially when dealing with grief or uncertainty. And finally, there's one theory that flips everything on its head, and might just make your brain hurt. It's the looping life theory, based on the philosophical concept of eternal recurrence. This theory suggests that you live the same life over and over again, endlessly, with no memory of having done it before. Every decision, every heartbreak, every success, all of it playing out in exactly the same way each time. Nietzsche described it as both a curse and a test. If you knew you'd live this life again, would you live it differently? It's a chilling idea, but also one that urges you to reflect on every choice. Because what if you've already lived this life 100 times, and this moment is just another repetition? Whether you believe in energy, God, science, or something else entirely, the question of what happens after we die is one we all must face. Maybe death is the end. Maybe it's the beginning. Or maybe it's something so far beyond human understanding that we'll never truly grasp it until we experience it ourselves. If this video gave you something to think about, go ahead and like it, share your favorite theory in the comments, and subscribe for more deep dives into life's biggest mysteries.